I know you gonna dig this.
Get funky with me.
Hey. How's everybody doing today? Here I am in Jacksonville, Florida, and I'm going to do a video about Lynyrd Skynyrd, a band that I know somewhat a lot about, learning. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and reading a lot about them, doing a lot of research for this video, and I've become fascinated by the story of Lynyrd Skynyrd and their music. I've known since I was little. I think you know a lot of their hits: Sweet Home Alabama, Freebird, Tuesday's Gone. Tuesday's Gone is my favorite song by Lynyrd Skynyrd, one of probably my top 5 songs of all time. I think it should be the ending song for every movie. I think that should be put into law. Tuesday's Gone should be at the end of every film ever made, in the final scene, and because it's the perfect ending song for a movie. And here I am outside the Van Zant house, and this is where Ronnie, Donnie, and Johnny Van Zant grew up, in this house right here, between the 1950s and the 1980s. And their parents lived here for so long, and after Skynyrd's success, inside they used to have gold records all along the walls. This is where Ronnie would give his parents his gold records, and they keep them inside. And Donnie Van Zant actually formed the band 38 Special, which were hugely successful as well. Now, after Ronnie died in a tragic plane crash, I'm going to talk about that in a bit, Johnny Van Zant, his younger brother, took over 10 years later as lead singer of Lynyrd Skynyrd, and they're still going. I believe they're on their last tour right now, or starting their last tour, I believe. But yeah, this house right here, I'm going to show you what it says on the sign and take a look at the house. So what they've done is they've gated the property, put up some surveillance cameras, and it's more to protect the sign than the house itself. The house is for rent as an Airbnb. You can actually rent and stay in the house now. You see by the signs, rent this historic property. Well, actually, I guess it's not an Airbnb, it's vanzanthouse.com, so you go there. But the guy who bought the house, a real estate developer, bought the house because he thought it should be preserved, and then he paid for half the sign. I believe the Florida Department of State, well, I guess what it says, Florida Department of State, the two of them together paid for this sign, but he was afraid the sign was going to be stolen, so he put this fence up and the heavy security cameras. I'll try and read you the sign, what it says. I'm going to go in a little closer here. I'll paraphrase, I'll go fast through it. Musicians Ronnie, Donnie, and Johnny Van Zant spent their formative years growing up in this house with their sisters and parents between the 1950s and 1980s. A serendipitous foul ball hit by Ronnie Van Zant at a nearby park struck future bandmate Bob Burns in the head, knocking him unconscious. This chance encounter led to what would become one of the most famous, hard-working rock and roll bands in the world, Lynyrd Skynyrd. Gold and platinum records for millions of album sales adorn the walls of this house while the band toured worldwide. Tragedy cut short the original incarnation of Lynyrd Skynyrd when 4 members of the band, including lead singer Ronnie Van Zant, died in a plane crash in Mississippi on October 20th, 1977, after their tour plane ran out of fuel. The surviving members of the band and crew were seriously injured. 10 years later, Johnny Van Zant took over as lead singer, and Lynyrd Skynyrd was reborn. Donnie Van Zant was a founding member and lead singer of the rock band 38 Special, a highly successful band in its own right. The Van Zant's legacy, memorialized in this house, commemorate their prodigious contribution to the world of rock music. Jesus, I have a degree in English. So yeah, right here behind me, that's the Van Zant house. Here's their mailbox. Let's take a look. I know somebody who would like to see this mailbox. Scott from Dearly Departed in California. He likes seeing the mailboxes of famous people. Here it is. Now I noticed that there's 3 doors to get in. 1, 2, and 3. I'm assuming that's the front door though. There's more of a porch outside. Which one did Ronnie, Johnny, and Donnie run through? I'm gonna say that one. A very famous song by Lynyrd Skynyrd is called The Ballad of Curtis Loew, and it's a great song. You should listen to it if you don't know it. And it was written about a store that's just right up here. I'm gonna take you and show you that store, because Ronnie, in the song, writes about collecting soda cans to go in return for cash up at a store here. And he would pay an older man to play some guitar for him outside of the store, right up here. So close. I'm gonna take you there now. Let's go. One thing about Florida and Georgia is there are a lot of feral cats, like a lot of them, and they're all very sweet. And I always try to feed them when I see them. And I've got carrots. And I want to feed him. Here you go. He's running away, but he'll come back for them. I've watched, spent countless hours watching these cats. There you go, sweetheart. So right behind me, Ballad of Curtis Loew. That song was written about this place right here. Now, what's it called now? Sunrise Food Store. But this is it. It's literally a 2-minute walk from the house. And here it is. All right, now I'm gonna take you to another place that has to do with Lynyrd Skynyrd. Let's go. But it's right here, and this is where they got their band name from. They were originally called the 1%, but they got sick of being told they have 1% talent. Something like that. That's how the folklore goes. So Ronnie Van Zant got sick of being teased about the name. So there was a gym teacher here named Lynyrd Skynyrd, and he was a strict disciplinarian, and he did not like the boys because of their long hair. And so, out of respect and, well, disrespect, they named the band after him, Lynyrd Skynyrd, which became Lynyrd Skynyrd, and then became that famous spelling with the Y's. Lynyrd Skynyrd taught here, Lynyrd Skynyrd went here, and this is their high school, Robert E. Lee High School. It's a pretty big high school. Right here is, this is the old part, and then around the back, there's like a newer part built. Oh, there's a really cool outdoor pool. I didn't know that, and it's so hot. I want to go in that pool. Yeah. Really cool looking American type high school that you see in towns like this. I believe, what town am I in? Lake City, which is in Jacksonville. And now, on to another location that has to do with one of the greatest bands to ever come out of the American South. Essentially created Southern rock, Lynyrd Skynyrd. Let's go. All right, so here I am at Riverside Memorial Gardens, and I'm at the gravesite of Ronnie Van Zant. Now, Ronnie Van Zant died in a horrific plane crash along with Steve and Cassie Gaines, 2 other band members, assistant tour manager, and the 2 pilots. And 20 people survived the plane crash. They had taken off from Florida a few days earlier and landed in South Carolina, and the engine had caught on fire. It was an old plane, shouldn't have been flying. But the pilots and mechanics said it was fixed, and they decided that they were going to try to get to Louisiana for a show. So they left from South Carolina on their way to Louisiana to play a huge show, and Ronnie Van Zant did not want to let his fans down because Southern fans were his biggest fans. Now, the story goes that he cajoled Cassie Gaines, who did not want to fly on them. She was a backup singer for the band, did not want to fly on that plane, but he cajoled her. Who knows? And nobody really wanted to fly on that plane. And the band manager, I think his name is Paul Rudd, who was the manager of The Who as well, he would fly first class on commercial airliners, and he wouldn't fly on that plane, but he wanted to save a buck, so he rented them this old plane. And after this show in Louisiana, the members of Lynyrd Skynyrd said, no more for that plane. We're not going to fly on that plane anymore. So this was going to be their last flight on the plane. And tragically, it ended up being their last flight. And here's the grave. As you can see, people come out here and leave a lot of different things. A lot of quarters, pennies, beer bottles, flags, flowers. Now, Ronnie Van Zant was actually originally buried in a different cemetery where Steve and Cassie Gaines are. Steve was a guitarist for the band. Cassie, like I said, was a backup singer. He was originally buried in another cemetery, but vandals broke into his crypt, got the coffin out, and legend goes they wanted to see if he was actually buried in his Neil Young t-shirt. He wore a Neil Young t-shirt. They had a fun rivalry, but they're actually friends. And Sweet Home Alabama, people think it's a diss back at Neil Young because of the line, well, I hope Neil Young doesn't remember, Southern man don't need him around anyhow. He was actually agreeing with Neil Young in the lyrics and saying that, you know what, we're not, well, not agreeing with Neil Young, he was contradicting it, saying, you know what, we're not all like that, we're not, the South, we're not racist, we're not like that. And he's proud of his Southern heritage, but he's saying we're not all like what you say we are. But they actually traded demos and they were friends, and he wore a Neil Young t-shirt on album covers, their last album cover actually, which is a matter of controversy as well. And then, yeah, so what was I talking about? I'm sorry. I have so much information about Lynyrd Skynyrd going around in my head that it's getting murky. He was buried in another cemetery, yeah. Same with Steve Gaines, and they vandalized both graves. They actually punctured, Steve Gaines was cremated, they actually got into his urn and punctured the plastic bag that contained his urn, that contained his ashes. Unbelievable. So finally, they moved Ronnie Van Zant to an undisclosed location, which was here, and it was they didn't say where he was for so long. He's beside his parents. And then they finally put a marker up here, and he's buried here underneath so much concrete, it would take a forklift of immense strength for somebody to be able to get in there and to do something horrible and desecrate a grave, which is the worst thing imaginable. But yeah, Ronnie Van Zant was moved here, and here he is now, resting peacefully, we hope. So when I was putting together this video about Lynyrd Skynyrd, I discovered something that really just kind of blew my mind, and I want to share it with you right now. So Ronnie Van Zant's grave is right there behind those bushes. But I'm going to show you someone else who's buried here, right so close to Ronnie Van Zant. Now, if you remember, I spoke about the high school teacher who inspired the name, Lynyrd Skynyrd, the strict disciplinarian who chastised them for their long hair, and who later became friends with the band, introduced him on stage, Lynyrd Skynyrd. He's right here in the same cemetery. Lynyrd Skynyrd, the coach. Getting really windy. Now, if you want to come out here and pay your respects to Lynyrd Skynyrd, he's across the street from Ronnie Van Zant. The cemetery is divided into two on either side of the street. Ronnie's over there. Lynyrd is here resting. You come pay your respects. Just look for the Last Supper sculpture on that outdoor mausoleum there, and walk up to it to your right. Okay, now something else I spoke about in the video. We're gonna go there now. Let's go. This is a lengthy one. So here I am now at Jacksonville Memory Gardens, and this is where Ronnie Van Zant's original grave was. And they still have the sculpture, the monument out front. People still come and leave things. And Steve Gaines, the guitarist, he's still here. And Cassie Gaines, his older sister, who was a backup singer for the band, is here as well. Let's take a look. So there's Cassie, and I believe those are her parents on either side of her. So you can see people come out here and they leave beads. Looks like remnants of people coming out here and drinking and just kind of hanging out. And right in front is Steve Gaines from Lynyrd Skynyrd. Coca-Cola bottle. Few other things, nice flowers planted. And right behind Steve is Teresa Gaines Rapp, who I'm going to assume was Steve's wife, loving wife and mother, the peace symbol there, seashell. And then right here, there's another bench that says, "This world is not conclusion, a sequel stands beyond, invisible as music, but positive as sound." So then you go right over here, and here's Ronnie Van Zant's original grave, right here. This is about a 15-minute drive from Riverside Cemetery, where Ronnie Van Zant is currently interred. About that. It looks like people have left a Bible, beer bottles, Coke bottle, a lighter, guitar picks, and there's a bench here, and it reads, and I believe this is Charlie Daniels, "A brief candle, both ends burning, an endless mile, a bus wheel turning, a friend to share, a lonesome time, a handshake and a sip of wine. Say it loud and let it ring, that we're all part of everything, the future, present, and the past. Fly on, proud bird, you're free at last. C. Daniels. Okay, so rest in peace, Steve Gaines and Cassie Gaines, still here. And Ronnie Van Zant, who's no longer here at Jacksonville Memory Gardens, who's been moved. Now I'm gonna take you to a place having to do with Lynyrd Skynyrd, where they developed their sound. And this is, I guess if you're a part of the inner circle of Lynyrd Skynyrd back in the day, in the early 70s, this place would bring back a lot of memories for you. Not much is left there. I'm gonna see what I can find, see what I can show you, but I'm excited. When I decided to do this video, it was the first place I looked up, and it's hard to find, but I think I'm gonna find it. Let's go. All right. All right, so here I am at the location of Lynyrd Skynyrd's Hell House. This is where Lynyrd Skynyrd in the early days would come out to a house here with no air conditioning in the middle of Florida and rehearse for hours. Ronnie Van Zant was a perfectionist. He would put them through grueling hours and hours of rehearsals right here. This is the old dock that they used to hang out on. And I'm gonna show you exactly where the house was. So the dock is right here. I'm not going too close to that dock. Why? Because this is Florida and the alligator situation. I wanna get really close. But the dock looks a little unstable. This dock has been here for years and years. Look at the tree that's grown through it. Nature finds a way. Now I was just talking to someone who lives on the property, who this is a gated community, really sweet people here, and they helped point me in the right direction. I kind of knew, thanks to my good friend Alex, who watches my channel, the exact location. He helped me out with it, and yeah, they directed me down to here, and this is it. Wow. Now, to find the exact location of the Hell House, like exactly where it stood on this property, is a little difficult, but I've been told it's kind of on the hilltop. It's completely gone, but there's still plastic tubing coming out of the ground where it used to stand. Other places, I've read that there was a cement slab where the house used to be, but apparently that's been removed. But here are some plastic tubings coming out of the ground right here, where it looks like a house used to stand. Let me show you. There you go. So those are the only ones I see. The house wasn't huge. But I can't even begin to imagine being out here in the heat like that. Wow. I can't even imagine what it was like with no air conditioning out here. Well, I can imagine because I'm living it right now, but still, you know what I mean. Thinking of the musical history that occurred right here on this property is really kind of blowing my mind right now. So I'm thinking that's probably, since it's on an incline right there, the house probably would have been right about here, with the plastic tube going in somewhere into the back of the house. But, and here's a flat surface where it appears the house would have stood. Hard to tell. The neighbor didn't mention the concrete slab where the house used to stand. He just mentioned all the tubing. And that tubing is right over here. So I think the house was right here. Now, if you're a Skynyrd fan, I'm getting this wrong, please let me know. But here's more tubing right here. Yeah, so I don't know, man. Right on the creek. And thus ends my Lynyrd Skynyrd Odyssey. Hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, if you're a Skynyrd fan, add something more below that I didn't touch on maybe. Location of the Hell House, right here behind me. That's blowing my mind. But they're gonna soon develop this area. And that little part of history is gonna be bulldozed over. I mean, there's nothing here really, but the house used to be here, which is really cool. All right, Skynyrd, peace out. Thanks for watching.